viewers, we move on to a breaking news that's coming in. Kremlin has now officially stated that the Russian President Vladimir Putin will be meeting US Envoy Steve Witkoff on 2nd December, that's tomorrow. The meeting will be taking place in Moscow. This comes after US and Ukrainian officials held roughly 4-hour-long talks on the 30th of November yesterday in Florida. And viewers, let's move on to some more information coming in this regard. The European Union's top diplomat, Kaja Kallas, has said that the coming days could prove crucial for efforts to advance diplomatic solutions to the war in Ukraine. Her remarks came as senior US representatives prepare to travel to Moscow following discussions with Ukraine's negotiating team. Speaking ahead of a meeting of European Union defense ministers, Kallas has noted that initial assessments from recent US-Ukraine talks suggested they were difficult but productive. The final outcomes are not yet known. She further added that she is scheduled to speak directly with the Ukraine's defense minister and foreign minister to assess the situation and coordinate the next steps. Kallas emphasized that European partners are closely monitoring the diplomatic track and preparing for potential developments this week, which she described as possibly pivotal for ongoing efforts to end the conflict. Mark Sutherland, geopolitical commentator, joins us live now from London. Thank you, Mark, for joining us back here at NewsX World. Now, of course, crucial talks were held yesterday between Ukraine and US officials, and Kremlin has also confirmed that Witkoff will be meeting Putin tomorrow in Moscow. What do you think may have happened in yesterday's talks, although there are some statements coming in that talks were in a productive direction?
Pretty good to be with you. These talks are behind closed doors, and hence you ask the question. We just wonder. Well, let's go back. First of all, President Trump, when he came in to his second term, said, "I will sort this out in days." Sadly, he hasn't been able to do that so far, but he has been trying to do that. The administration has been trying to do that. As previously, there has always been these comments, understandably, from the Ukrainian government to say, "Look, Russia has taken land. We want that land. We want that land back." Whether some of that land will be taken back, we have yet to see, because Russia want a buffer zone. Klaus, in regard to the European Union, as their head diplomat or commentator on this subject, the European Union are not. The European ministers are not happy in the fact that they wish that they were part of these negotiations in Washington D.C. a few weeks ago. We saw when they all flew out there. We have to bear in mind that President Trump has also been frustrated over the fact that what happened under the Biden regime in regard to sorting this out. And we also have to bear in mind and remember that Russia attacked a sovereign nation in 2022. So we all want to see this war end, and we want to see it end fast because of all the destruction in Ukraine and sadly, and the loss of life there. So we wait to see what they are then going to come out with, and also, as you say, Witkoff is then going to fly to Russia. We have to put in the mix all the economic strains on the Russian economy. We've noted in the last 48 hours the Ukrainians attacking the ghost ships in Turkey. So there are so many factors to this. But the number one thing is we genuinely want a peace deal and an end to this war. And I sense that is what the Trump administration is pushing forward, as well as then saying to NATO, like they have in the past, that we then have to stand, the European countries then have to start playing our part in regard to investing, in regard to military and our own armies and our own defense, and not just relying on America and the financing of NATO. by them. Kriti.
Thanks, Mark, for sharing all that with us. But do stay on. There's another pressing development that's now coming in. Tulip Siddiq, the British Labour MP for Hampstead and Highgate, has been sentenced to 2 years in prison by a court in Bangladesh over corruption charges related to her aunt, the country's ousted former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. Siddiq is accused of influencing Hasina to secure a government land plot for her family. Now, she denies the allegations, calling the trial politically motivated, and claims she was not informed of the charges or given proper legal representation. Siddiq had previously resigned from her role as a UK Treasury Minister in January due to controversy over her family ties. The case is separate from her financial links to Hasina's supporters, which led to her resignation. Sheikh Hasina was also sentenced to 5 years in prison for her involvement in the land project, and her mother, Sheikh Rehana, received 7 years. Hasina is also facing a death sentence for crimes against humanity related to last year's crackdown on protesters. I request Mark to join us back on this discussion here. Mark, it's baffling that Tulip has been given this sentence without even being involved in the trial. She disputes, and so do her lawyers, that she never had even an ID card or a voter ID card and has not held a passport since she was a child.
Kriti, as you said, she wasn't there. There are all these accusations that she has denied, and the recent one in regard to passport ID, Bangladeshi passport or ID card, she has then denied. And the comments that has been made is, how can Bangladesh then investigate corruption when the people on that investigation may be in fact be corrupt themselves? She resigned, as you pointed out, she resigned after being economic secretary to Treasury, and on the 15th of January this year. And it's about, as you quite rightly pointed out, in regard to the accusation of land and the purchasing of land. These are all, she has denied all of this. Hence, but she still stood down because it's what it perceived and what it's then looked like. And I just have to say this was a UK political comment, in the fact that the reason why she then stood down and had no option, and along with potentially other accusations that are going on within, not with her but with others within British politics, is the fact that the present Labour government came in saying, we're going to come in, there's going to be adults in the room, we are going to be accountable, basically inferring the lack of that in regard to the last Conservative government. So this is why it doesn't look good in regard to how this present government, the UK government, then conducts itself. But all credit to her, eventually she then didn't have an option, but she then resigned. She's still the MP of Highgate and Kilburn. But as you quite rightly point out, how can then people hand down a sentence, accuse you of doing things, and you're not even there to represent yourself? That's why various people, other ex-members of Parliament over here, but also people that within legal professional giving legal advice, have then written about saying that this, if she's going to be put on trial, it has to be fair. That's the big issue. But the other issue is this: is that we all want a fair trial. It's very interesting that the present Labour government wish to now looking at getting rid of trial by jury. So some people may say, well, you say one thing on one side of your mouth, and then your actions in other areas are very different. Hence why people have said to her, you have to resign even until all these matters are then cleared up. But we all have concern about fraud and the misuse of power around the world in many countries. hence why the comments have been made about this case.
Right. All right. Thank you, Mark, for speaking to us here. I'd let you go with that. And viewers, let's move on to another news now. Australia has moved to ban social media for children aged under 16, as the legislation is facing a backlash from those who say that online platforms help young people to develop their identity and develop valuable skills. However, according to experts, there is a fear that the legislation will hinder the development of digital literacy skills in children aged under 16. Meanwhile, some parents have responded. Let's listen in to what they had to say.
And that's her path, and I am proud of her. So I think it's great that, you know, that's what she's chosen to do, it's what she's doing. And at the moment, that's what she likes. Whether that's going to be her forever career path, I don't think so. But I think it's giving her skills. I have the account in my name. I've changed a few settings. I've already had Meta ask me to verify my age. I've already done that. I think I'm still going to be able to post on Ava's.
So I think one of the worst things that parents can do is just sort of take a step back and say, well, you know, they can't use it, therefore I don't have to do anything about it anymore. We know that's not the case. Of course, one of the potential dangers with this legislation is that young people will then go to other online spaces to connect, and that those spaces aren't regulated and there may not be transparency around them. So potentially creating more risk for young people.
And with that, it's a wrap on News X.